Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whichever part of the world you are logging in from. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you taking time and being a part of our conversation today, despite Cricket World Cup semi-final between India and New Zealand. Really appreciate you being with us. With me, I have Dr. Kumar Mehta, who is the author of number one Amazon bestseller, The Innovation Biome, and has been on the forefront of research, innovation, and data analytics for 30 years. He research, writes, and speaks about personal excellence, innovation, and his professional experience include 9 years of being CEO of a large data analytics company and a 14-year stint at Microsoft. So today we are going to talk to him as the author of this book, The Exceptionals. It's about the 1% of the top 1%. What makes somebody exceptional in the field, a chosen field that they want to excel in. And this is a very short book, about 180 pages. You can get it on Amazon. What attracted me to this book is from uh, of all the books that I have come across, this one got my attention because Abhijit Baduri did a session with Dr. Mehta, and also there was a summary that he posted. It really attracted my attention, and I reached out to Dr. Mehta, and he graciously agreed to be interviewed. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's early morning for you, 6:30. The sun is, breaking light in the part of the world that you are logging in from. That shows your commitment, sir. And being a researcher at heart, you have spoken to so many exceptional people across the globe, be it sports, be it arts, be it corporate, and so many examples that you could glean over and patterns that you have seen. It's exceptional to see the kind of work that you have put in. My first question would be, what inspired you to delve into this research of the 1% of the 1%?
Yeah, again, thank you for having me on the show. My first book was on how innovations happen. And I actually studied hundreds and hundreds of innovations, all the way from the invention of the wheel 2000 years ago to all the things we're doing today. And one of the things I learned is there's actually people behind all of these things. And then I was interested in what makes certain people special and the best at what they do, whether they invent a new medicine or whether they invent some new technology, or whether they do the best in whatever their profession is. And I became interested in the people who who differentiated themselves from everyone else. And in every profession, we have these a few people, the 1% of the 1% that I call them, uh, that really have separated them. In cricket, there's people like Sachin, and basketball, there's Michael Jordan. In music, there's Beatles. And in every culture, there are different people who are just so different. And I try to understand what makes them tick, what makes them special, what makes someone like Bill Gates who he is versus other people who are just as smart and technical. And so I started this journey by interviewing people who had reached the very top of the field. I spoke to Nobel laureates and Olympic gold medalists and world class musicians and business leaders and even other professions like architecture and other things. And I realized that these people have more in common with each other than they do with other people in their own profession. And that got me that got me thinking about the most exceptional people in the world, and that led to the book The Exceptionals. It's the story of who these most exceptional people are.
Fantastic. As we speak, Virat Kohli surpassed his idol, Sachin Tendulkar, in scoring 50 ODI centuries today in Wankhede Stadium at Mumbai. That when I think of Virat Kohli, he is an exceptional. Along with Sachin Tendulkar, the name that you mentioned, even in the book, you have references of cricketers. So, what makes these exceptionals is they have their innate ability, which they've been practicing from early age, and they also have enablers in their environment, which you beautifully highlight as five different sets of enablers. And you also talk about their work ethic, which is intense effort. So all the three put together becomes the three elements of excellence. In fact, when you researched about this topic, you must have come across many other factors. Also, you must have come across this question of are leaders born or made? It has genetics has something to do with it. You have handled that part very well in the book when you talk about innate abilities. Uh, so, could you help our audience to understand what led you to these three factors?
Yeah, so I'm not the first person who's tried to study why certain people are exceptional. A lot of people have, and invariably they've always come up with one thing. It's like very famously Malcolm Gladwell brought up the 10,000 hour rule. Now 10,000 hours, which is a proxy for hard work, is necessary to become exceptional, but it's not sufficient. Just being alone, if I just work hard, 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 that's going to be helpful, but it's not enough. I can be born with talent. A lot of people are just born talented, and again, that some people believe that what you are is what you're made up of. You're born that way, and again, that is not enough. That is necessary, but not sufficient. There's books on grit, and there's books on self-belief, and there's all these different theories out there, and for all of them, they are, again, they're necessary, because without them you cannot become exceptional, but they're not sufficient. When I was researching, I found that there was this combination of these three factors. One was your innate abilities, what you're born with. You have to be born with certain traits. You have to have a musical mind if you want to become a musician. You have to have a mathematical mind if you want to become someone in a technical field. You have to have some spatial abilities if you want to become a geologist. You have to have athletic abilities, because some things are just inborn in you. uh, Things like power and speed, and things like that, you're either born with or you're not born with. You can develop them, but you cannot become exceptional in them unless you're born with speed. I write about the example of Usain Bolt, the world's greatest sprinter. He grew up, when he was a kid, he loved playing cricket. That was his thing, and he might have been a very good cricket player, but his cricket coach said, you're very fast, you have speed, try running. And that's when he picked up running and realized, yeah, I have this gift. And then he spent the rest of his life building upon that gift. So it's a combination of things. It starts with what you have, what you're born with. Then it's the effort you put into developing that skill. And then there are some other factors that I call the enablers, that make them all possible. And without them, it's impossible to become the best in your field. You have to have the self belief in yourself. You have to have an environment that supports you. Uh, you have to be committed to it. Um, so you have to focus on all the little details and understand the nuances of what you're doing, and you have to keep learning and getting better. So becoming exceptional is a combination of all these things, and that's what I write about and talk about.
Fantastic. And in fact, a lot of examples that you brought in, especially the one which caught my attention is the quote of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Your book starts with that quote. I'm just displaying it here on the screen for the audience. It goes like this: don't just set out to do a good job, set out to do such a good job that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it any better. This gave me such a josh and energy, flowing through my veins. There are many such moments throughout the book, Dr. Mehta. This is brilliant the way you have succinctly packaged it. I cannot call even one page anything like a fluff. Every page is full of intense and dense concepts, easy to grasp, well written language. My 11-year-old daughter is reading this book on a daily basis before going to bed, and she has told me that it's inspiring a lot. And she is practicing violin, and this is something that she wants to take it up as she grows, right? So every code that you bring in brings me so much of clarity in the concepts. This is uh, I have read many American authors and research scholars books, including Malcolm Gladwell, who you mentioned in the beginning of our conversation. The style is similar to that, with a story, a gripping climax, and then revealing the insight. For audience out there, please do grab a copy of this book. Just a 180-page book. You can finish it in one sitting if you are on a flight, and if you want to spend a weekend with a good friend, Dr. Mehta will be talking with you throughout the book with all of these examples. May I also share a personal example, Dr. Mehta?
Yes, please.
Yeah, before pandemic, I was with a non-profit, a large non-profit in India, where we were training underprivileged youth, 18 years and above, and getting them entry-level job. Um, our task was to train and place 1 million youth on their entry-level jobs. So our mantra in every classroom across India, all the students would shout, "I am, I can, I will." This is the
It's very,
affirmation, and I
yeah.
see all the three in these research output that you have come up with. Innate abilities, I am. Um, I can is enablers, and I will is the intense effort. That's how I'm seeing it. I think many of my old colleagues would see the uh, you know what do you say, the correlation between the what research says and what we did it intuitively to bring out these youth from socio and economic poverty. So coming back to our conversation, you also talk about a fascinating concept called micro excellence. You bring out the relationship between Michael Phelps and Coach Bob Bowman, where they were so meticulous. They planned each and every moment of practice as well as what could happen on the on the final day of Olympic event, and you bring out so many nuances of it. Could you help our audience to get some more ideas on what is micro excellence?
Sure. So, we are trained to think big. We think of the big picture. We think in a business about big, hairy goals. We think about, big achievements. And I think it's fine. You have to have big dreams. But the way you achieve those dreams is not by taking big steps. You achieve those dreams by focusing in and getting excellent in every little thing you do. It's the attention to details that separates the best from the rest. Michael Phelps, he was just a master of detail, and that's true with everyone in any sport, whether it's Bill Gates or Sachin Tendulkar or any of the people we've talked about already. Michael Phelps won an Olympic gold medal when he was blind in the water because and in the pool because water went into his goggles and he couldn't see. But he knew exactly how many strokes to take, when to flip and turn around and come back, because he was able to count his strokes. He knew at the minutest level of detail. And the people who make it, and this is across the board, I've spoken to so many, for example, athletes who focus on the big things, that the main things that you watch on TV. But that is just one very small part of it. Those are the people that never make it. The
Yeah,
people that make it are doing all the things that no one else wants to do.
the angel
And
is in the details.
exactly. So, uh, so I bring up this concept called micro excellence because that was one of the traits I found that was common across everyone who had achieved that rarefied air of being the best in the world at their field.
And taking this micro excellence concept forward, what suggestion or what message do you have for coaches like me in this regard? How do we make this actionable for our coaches?
Nothing is too small, nothing is too insignificant. Excellence is achieved only through micro excellence. You cannot become excellent at something without focusing on the little components that make you excellent. You cannot say that, especially if you're a coach and your client is a business executive or a sales executive, and they want to, you can, they will not become excellent at a given point in time. A surgeon cannot become excellent only when there's a patient on the table. You have to
Yeah.
become excellent all the time. So when those moments that matter, that's when your excellence needs to show up. So the the advice, and this is counterintuitive, is just you get higher by going lower. Uh,
Mm.
you reach a level uh, of achievement by focusing on all the little things that make it possible, and something that the best in the world intuitively understand. But for a lot of people, it's just a lesson to help them get down to the details.
Fantastic. And we have a question from one of our audience here, Joanne. Can you talk more about the enabler of a supportive environment?
Uh, sure, I'm
I'll
just
read
trying to
those
read.
remaining two questions after you are done with this.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I thought that was part of it. Yeah, so an environment is something that is just absolutely required. You cannot, I mean, you cannot be in a hostile environment and hope to achieve what you want to achieve. And part of it is just being around like-minded people. Uh, there's a small area in Kenya called Rift Valley where the world's greatest marathoners come from. It is the cult. It is an environment where there's a culture of running. It is You're surrounded by people. You run. Everyone there runs, and you just become better and better and better, and then you become better than your peers, and eventually you become the best in the world. And at the most basic sense, even having a supportive environment is having access to the resources you need. If
Right.
if you're in a specialized field like medicine, there are certain areas where you have the resources and the labs and the research that's required. If you are a skier, you need easy access to snow. So the
Right.
environment can be a physical environment as well as a psychosocial environment. And the second part of a supportive environment is the environment you were kind of brought up in and you have around you. So, for example, the people who believe they're exceptional have come from environments where they kind of know that they can be exceptional. It's not something separate and removed and reserved for someone else. It is something that you can actually you believe you can achieve it yourself.
Right. The first element that you spoke about reminds me of this quote. I don't remember who said it. You are average of five people you hang out with.
Yeah, that's a popular quote, and that's true.
So that summarizes enabling environment. Or people in Silicon Valley gravitate towards innovation, or a sandbox. Like in India, we have created few sandboxes, Nashik, Bangalore, and many other places with the same concept of if we have too many people with the same ideology and thinking, innovation may spark. Incidentally, I'm logging in from Bangalore. It's the Silicon Valley of India, where a lot of startups,
Yeah.
thrive in that concept. Yeah. The second question from Joanne is, what defines that, and how much can exceptional person creates it versus other create it for them?
I'm trying to read the question again. What defines that, and how much
What
can?
defines a supportive environment, and how much can the exceptional person creates it themselves, perhaps, versus vis-a-vis others creating it for them?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think it's a combination. I think an environment it's what's around you. So by definition, it's not what you create; it's what's around you. And as we were just talking about, uh, that supportive environment can be physical. So, for example, uh, whether it's a fruit stall or a medical center or any kind of scientific facility, or you talked about innovation and technology, they all are clustered, and that environment brings out the best. If you become the best in your cluster of like-minded people, you're more likely to become the best in the world at what you do. So that's just the physical environment. And there's also this other thing that I mentioned, the psychosocial environment, that again is something that's around you. You're just brought up in a there's something that I call the culture of striving, and something that people have from a young age. They just want to reach and achieve more. And again, When parents, for example, create that culture of striving, their kids become more focused and believe they can achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. A lot of people, one of the things that people that holds people back is that they just don't believe that they can be like the people they see on TV, who are typically the best in the world at whatever they're watching.
Right.
But if you grow up in this culture of striving that's set around you, that's established, that yeah, that they're no different from you and me, you kind of from day one have that belief that you can also achieve anything you set your mind to.
Sure. And Dr. Mehta, you mentioned in your book about a Hungarian psychologist, Laszlo Polgar, and his wife, Clara, deciding to bring up their children in an environment where they can be best in the world, and they chose chess because the elder daughter, she accidentally at the age of 4 stumbled upon a piece of chess coins and board, and that became their area of excellence. And they created such a wonderful environment with lot of chess books, homeschooled the children, three of them. All the three went uh, onto the world to become grandmasters, and many of their YouTube videos are a testimony of how a nurturing environment by parents can bring a huge difference.
Yes, and that's a very public example because it was almost like a scientific experiment. But if you look at people across the board, they've grown up in a setting where they've been encouraged to excel.
Right. And you also bring a word of caution to parents on two counts. One, exposing children from one class to another in a series, like, from say, a sports club to dance or arts and so on, which I have seen very often parents subject their children to multiple things, hoping that they will pick up something. And there is a caution that I picked up from your book, that parents should be very cautious about it. Once the kid identifies the area, then they should stick with it, right?
Yes, and that's true for all of us. People give up easily,
Yeah.
and especially when kids do like chess camp and coding camp and some 2 or 3 sports, you become jack of all. You don't really become good at anything. And
Right.
then what happens is, as you grow up, there are other children who have become good at something, and and these kids actually quit because they realize, oh, I'm not good at that, I'm not good at something. But you've never given yourself a chance to become good at something because you're spread so thin, you're trying so many different activities. So it's fine at a young age to to expose your kids to different things, because that's the only way they'll know what they're gifted at, what they like, what they enjoy, what they're good at. But but once they pick that area, you have to, and if they want to become very good at it, you have to give it a chance. You have to start investing the time and the energy and the effort into becoming good at it. And that's how it's not necessarily something that people have to do, but if you want to become exceptional and you want to become the best, one of the best at what it is, then that's the path that you need to take, because that's the only way to make it happen.
Yeah. And this is going against the ancient wisdom of identify your weakness and start working on those to make it a strength.
Yeah, now that you have to do both. You have to, you have to identify your weakness and get better at it. But you also have to work on your strengths and get really, really good at them, because that's what again makes the separation. Because everyone, every athlete you think of, they stand out in something that's
Hmm.
just so much better, so much more dominant. So you have to bring your weaknesses on par with your peer level. And your peer group is different. At my peer group, when I'm playing something casually with friends, is very different than people playing on the world stage. But you can't have any glaring weaknesses. You have to bring them to a certain level, but then your strengths you have to raise up higher.
Right.
So it's a little
So
confusing concept, but the idea is that you not only focus on your weaknesses, you also focus on your strengths. You don't let your strengths be the way they are.
true. And of the three elements, we had a discussion on innate abilities, where you spoke about you know the genes and how certain tools and techniques can be used. In your book, you mentioned about Howard uh, Gardner's multiple mindset as a good assessment tool to figure out what is my nature and what is my inner strength, what is my preference, right? Then we also discussed about enablers. Now coming to the third element of intense effort, what about hard work? How much hard work is required for exceptionals? And in your book, throughout, you have mentioned about people have been single-mindedly focused on the task that they have taken upon themselves and turned off all the distractions. In this era of social media, distractions are becoming the norm. What are your thoughts about someone who wants to be exceptional on intense effort? What is that they need to do?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, and this may not be the politically correct thing to say, but that if people want to become exceptional at whatever it is in sport, in music, in business, and anything, it is going to require an enormous amount of effort. Basically, you have to, when I interviewed many people in every field that have become the top in the world in their field, and the one phrase that was most common that I heard was that no one will outwork me. If
Mm,
somebody was working 6 hours a day, the Tiger Woods would work more than anyone else. The top tennis players would work more than anyone else. Uh, Bill Gates didn't take a vacation in his entire 20s.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not recommending this for everyone, but unfortunately, this is the level of commitment and the level of effort it takes to become the best in the world, to become exceptional, because it is just hard, and
Yeah.
that's why it's 1% of 1%. It's 1 in 10,000 people get to achieve that level of achievement. Uh, it is just something that, and then we're told from when we're young, without hard work nothing happens, and that is true.
True.
So
In fact, while you mentioned it's controversial, already one of the industrialists, Mr. Narayana Murthy, he mentioned that youngsters should be not be shying away in working 70-hour work week, and that became a moot point and a lot of discussion happening in social media, and people are divided in their opinion and reaction on this subject.
yes, well, I mean, he's certainly an exceptional. He built one of the greatest companies in the country. uh, and he would not have been able to do it without the intense effort that was required.
Yeah,
Now, there are many people who may not want to achieve that level of success or that level of achievement or build a company that great. Or there may be some people who just won't be able to do it for other reasons. So it's not a recipe for everyone. It's I'm not saying everyone should work 70 hours. People can work as much or as little as they choose to. But if you want to build a company like Infosys, or if you want to build a company like Microsoft or Apple or any of these companies that we admire, it is going to take an enormous amount of effort, and there's no substitute for that.
true, true. Very well said. We have one lengthy question from one of our audience, Mr. Samir. I've always wondered why certain societies are more innovative than others. For example, USA leads the world across multiple industries: IT, clean tech, finance, media, etc. So, what makes societies innovative?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think the reason for that is that innovation does not happen in a vacuum.
Mm,
Innovation builds upon previous developments, and it kind of, it's a stepwise process. Even though in the last 6 months people may say, oh, artificial intelligence has taken the world by storm. Artificial intelligence has been in the works for decades, and each innovation is a subsequent build over something else. And the societies that we consider most innovative have been doing this for a long time, so they have the basic research, the people, the culture, the knowledge base to start from. They have all these components that just make it easier to build upon each other. For any other country that is not innovative today, or any other company that's not innovative, it's not going to happen overnight. You have to build that culture. You have to build the building blocks, and only then you can get the results you want.
Yeah, you mentioned that the same applies for an individual. Setting a routine, whether it's a author who is churning out 47 novels over 40 years and a lot of plays and everything. He had a work ethic. You mentioned about 5:30 in the morning. His housemaid would wake him up with a cup of coffee, and then that routine continued for many years, right? 5:30 to 8:30, and then again in the evening. There's one more author whom you mentioned. He hid away and locked all the evening dresses for party, so that he can stay home in a disciplined manner and continue this routine. So whether it's a country or an individual, having those routines, having those rituals, which makes them productive and go deeper and do deep work, is the key, I believe.
Yes, yes, and what you've discussed uh, is is something that I've written to and referred to as a commitment device. You
Right.
need something to help you focus. It's just hard to work. I mean, working hard is not easy. So while
Yeah.
I can say everyone needs to work hard, we all know how hard it is, and sometimes you need some tools to help you focus. And one of them is a commitment device, which is a device which is just any little thing that helps you focus on your task at hand and not get distracted. You mentioned that we're always distracted in the social media age, and I'm the same way. When I'm writing, I start thinking of ideas, and my mind wanders, and then I instinctively start looking at my phone, and then I get distracted. One of the things that I do when I really need to focus on my research and writing is I take my phone and I put it in a different room.
Mm.
So then when I'm writing and I absently reach for it, I realize it's not there. And then it kind of reminds me, oh yeah, I put it away for a reason. I need to focus.
Right.
I think uh, I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but
Yes, yes,
but
yes.
that is
Whether it's
just
a
one
country or
way
a
that, yeah.
individual, the commitment device makes it more meaningful. That relates to the next question coming up on your screen. Emmanuel David is saying, working long hours is not key. Having a purpose is key. What is your view? I
I
think you
think you're
partly answered
absolutely
that.
right. I think having a purpose is the key. You're doing something for a reason because you want to make a difference, you want to achieve something, you want to, see something get done. The working hard part is the way you do it, is the way you achieve your purpose. Everyone has dreams. It's not hard to have dreams. Now, achieving those dreams is a different story, and that's where you need all these other qualities, and intense and hard work is one of them. So it is how you make your purpose, how you realize the purpose that you have in your mind and that you want to achieve.
True. And you give a provocative statement to burn plan B and stick with only plan A. Initially, I was finding it difficult to accept it. Then, as I read the pages with your examples, I realized that yes, that gives no scope or even a doubt of my effort. So, plan A is the only plan. Maybe a good way to become exceptional.
Yeah, so one of the things I learned is that everyone who became exceptional in their field had a laser like focus on one thing only and one thing. They were never distracted by doing something else. It was never like, okay, I'm going to try to become a tennis player, but if that doesn't work out, my family has a business I can run. That was, you know so think about it. What is your plan B? Your plan B is a safety net, that if you try something and it doesn't work out, then you have a safety net that holds you back and you can do something else. But what that plan B also does is that it prevents you from stretching to achieve your plan A, because it's hard to achieve your plan A. And whenever things get tough, if you have a plan B that's comfortable and convenient, you're always likely to revert to it. But if you don't have a plan B, you just keep going until your plan A works. And that is one thing that I've learned in studying exceptionals, is that you just don't have a plan B. And when you don't have a plan B, you've got no choice but to keep going until it works.
Right.
And if it doesn't
And
work for some reason, all those, uh, uh, all everything you've learned in trying to make it work, all those same qualities can be applied to another field, and you can become exceptional in something else.
true, true, very true. Another concept which really appealed to me is befriend your future self. Most
Yes.
of us, we lose track of our goals because we don't have that connect with the future self. Could you explain that concept to our audience, please?
Yeah. So uh, there is uh, there is us as we are sitting right now, and there is who we will be in the future in 10, 20 years from now. And research has shown that most people think of their future selves as someone distant, not really them. That they maybe don't think of them as much. They think of them maybe as a distant relative. They don't have that connection between the current self and the future self. And when you are connected with your future self, the stronger the connection with your future self, the more likely you're going to take the actions today that give you the future you want. And this is all shown. There's been a number of studies done in this area. And so we need to kind of build a future self connection. And I've written about a simple way to do that. Uh, one way is that you can take your smartphone, and there's plenty of these aging applications. You put a photo of yourself, and it just runs through something, and like in a few seconds, you see a photo of yourself, what you look like 10, 15, 20 years from now, and you just do that. And when you see a photo of yourself 20 years from now, it's kind of a very jarring realization because you look very old. You may or may not look exactly like that photo, but you look very old. And then you spend some time with that person on the phone, which is your future self, and that's when you start building that bond. It seems like a little bit of an exercise that may not give you something, but when you connect with your future self, you are then you ask yourself, what does your life look like when you become that person in the picture, and
Mm.
that's what guides the actions you take today. So it's a little hack that you can use, and it actually works. So you should try it sometime, and you should do it periodically.
Yes, it'll definitely make me get up from my bed and go out for that run in the morning.
Yeah.
I want to see a fitter future self rather than the the bloated one which I don't want to be. So that increases my commitment to current goals that I have and focus on what is at hand rather than getting bored or languishing in my attempt to achieve my goals. Absolutely right. The other part, Dr. Mehta, is about while writing this book, you have interviewed so many people. Did you find any difference with respect to nationality, gender, race, and so on? Any differences in exceptionals?
No. I think your nationality, gender, race, uh, I don't think that they play a role. I think it's not what you are from the outside or where you're born. It is what you are from the inside and what you want to become. So I think that whether you are in the US or whether you're in India or whether you're of any race, nationality, ethnicity, becoming exceptional is universal. And we've seen that. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at the most exceptional people in the world; they are from all over the world. No
Mm,
country has a monopoly on having super successful people or very high achievers. If you have that inside of you and you figure out a way to bring it out, you can become exceptional at your field.
right, right. And you have worked with many individuals and companies and teams who are on the way to innovate or already innovated in that area. Uh, what kind of application do you see for these findings? Uh,
Yeah,
is it
I
something
think
that we can put to practice and innovate?
I absolutely think that, and that's why I wrote that book. Is that so? One of the things I talk about is I talk about your possible best. That's a
Mm,
concept. We always think of a personal best. You want to do something a little better than you did before. I want to set a new personal best when I'm running or doing anything. and that is actually backward looking. You're
Right.
trying to do a little bit better than you did before. I
Mm.
say, I kind of put in this concept that instead of your personal best, you should think of your possible best, which is how far you can go, and then build a plan to get to that. And if
Right.
the best that any individual can do is achieve their possible best, is fulfill their potential. Now, fulfilling your potential may not make you the greatest in the world in something, but it'll give you the richest and the most the kind of richest satisfaction that you've achieved what you set out to achieve. And that's what I'm hoping this book lets you do. It lets you fulfill your potential, whatever it may be. And that's why these stories are there, and that's why these examples and methodologies and processes and techniques are presented in there. And if you do that, I truly believe that you can fulfill your potential. And again, that is the best you can possibly hope to do, or that's any of us can possibly hope to do.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the next question. Are there specific habits or mindsets that individuals can cultivate to enhance their potential?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are very specific habits or mindsets. In mindset, we've talked about a couple. It's that full level of commitment. It's a mindset of always learning, no matter what, and not only learning in your field. It's always reading. It's one thing I learned is that the most exceptional people, they're just learning from other fields. They just uh, have an open mind and bringing in
Mm.
information that they can apply to whatever their field is. There's a mindset of micro excellence we talked about. So there definitely is uh, a mindset that. Can you put that question up again? Because I may be
Yeah,
deviating from it.
sure.
But there definitely is a mindset that you can cultivate. And in terms of specific habits, I think one habit that I didn't talk about as much is building a process.
Mm.
You just have to have whatever your process may be. You have to have some kind of a daily process, and your process can be some milestone based process or time based process or achievement based process. Whatever it is, you need to have something you do every single day. So when I'm writing a book, I have a process for writing 1,000 words a day.
Mm.
uh, they may be good. Sometimes it may be good 1,000 words, sometimes it may be bad that I delete the next day, but I just write 1,000 words a day. One of the
Mm.
examples I gave in my book was on Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond novels. He had a
Right.
process of writing, from a certain time to a certain time. He just wrote. He didn't proofread. He just did that process, and and before you know it, a book will be there. Now, and then you can work on editing and rewriting and polishing and doing everything.
Mm.
So I
Every
think,
6 weeks, he used to churn a book.
yeah, and he would just write, but he would not do anything besides write. He would not fact
Yeah.
check. He would not fix typos. He would not do anything. He would just write.
Right.
And now maybe your process is different. Uh, and all the greatest athletes and musicians, they have a process. This musician I worked with closely, she was one of the best cellists in the world. She
Mm.
had a process of practicing for 3 hours a day. And when she first started
Wow.
doing it, when she was a kid, she said, "Okay, how do I fill these 3 hours?" So then she had to develop a process for making that productive. So yes, there is a process and a mindset that you can develop.
True, true. And I have heard about Mr. A.R. Rahman in India, who is
Hmm.
a famous musician and he won Oscar uh,
Yeah.
as well. And he talks about such a work ethic at a fairly young age. Uh, and he works during peak time of, say, uh, from 10 o'clock in the night to 3 or 4 in the morning. That's his peak creative time. And everyone in his industry aligns to that, and that's how he creates all the masterpieces. So yeah, there is a routine and we stick to that routine, and that becomes our process. Absolutely. There's one more question on Dr. Mehta from one of our audience, Janvi. Is age a barrier to become exceptional? Can someone discover their potential to become exceptional at a later age, like 50s or 60s?
Yeah, so I think again, you become exceptional when you achieve your possible best. If you want to become a Olympic athlete when you're 55 years old, that's going to be hard, just because the body doesn't function that way. But
Right.
if you say that, you are running and you want to achieve, you maximize your potential as a runner, you can certainly achieve that at any age you want. So in certain cases, uh, age is not the barrier; it's the physical limitations that become a barrier. But if you want to, start a business when you're in your 50s, by all means, you in fact have a better chance of success than someone starting the business in their 20s or 30s. In fact, studies have shown, and I've actually written about this in a separate publication, about why older entrepreneurs do better than younger entrepreneurs. So depending on what you want to do, age is never a barrier, but the physical limitations it may turn out to be a barrier. And in fact, age is an advantage because you actually have experience. You actually are more sound in your decision making and judgment than you are as a younger person.
Right. So that brings us to the wrap up section. Dr. Mehta, if someone has to reach you, what is the best way to reach you?
Uh, just probably by email is the easiest way to reach me, or on LinkedIn or Twitter. I look forward to hear from anyone, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
And I remember our first conversation when I asked you about what kind of assignments you take up. You mentioned that you are keen to work with people who want to be exceptionals, and these are the finest of the lot. And I believe each one of us in our chosen area can be the best, the 1% of the 1%. And you gave some statistics in your book as well. In US, how only 30,000 people roughly have achieved the pinnacle or peak of their careers in any chosen field across so many years. And when I apply that to India, maybe few more thousands, tens of thousands could be there by sheer size of the country. But still, uh, there's a hope. There is hope for anyone who picks up this book to reflect hardly, to make sure that we go deeper, make a list of things that we want to focus on. You've given few tools, tips and techniques, how to identify the area where we want to excel at, and also how do we create a blueprint of sorts on step by step how to go about it. It's a wonderful read. Every time when I picked up and read some section, reread few sections, I came out a lot of energy and inspiration. So thank you so much for putting it out there. What kind of message do you have for uh, facilitators and trainers and coaches like me who are in this business of activating potential of others? What is that we need to focus on?
That's a good question. I think most of the people you work with have unrealized potential inside of them.
Right.
And I think the job of the coach is to help realize that potential. And the book has, and then we've discussed in this call also in this session some techniques which are actually very easy to implement. And some of these techniques will help you and other facilitators unlock and unleash that potential from the people you work with. And that's all you can again hope to do is let them is let them achieve, kind of fulfill their potential. Basically, it's let them unlock what's inside of them that's just not coming out.
Right. I take away a few messages. A, let them take a hard look at what they want to be excelling at. Second, they have to create an environment for themselves or gravitate towards an environment where they can shine and excel in the chosen field. At least they know, or they get feedback on how they are doing. Third would be to have a commitment device so that they don't fall prey to the distractions. Next would be to not go for personal best, but possible best, and do an incremental improvement in their area of work, and also connect with the future self so that they can work backwards and be committed to their journey. So and plus, most important of all, key message for me is go higher by going lower. Be detail oriented, don't leave anything for chance, like the examples you gave of athletes and sports enthusiasts. We can also be very detail oriented, meticulous in our way of improving our performance. So thank you so much for all the key insights in this book. Though it's very small, 180 plus pages, it is dense with so much of insights one can put to practice. Really appreciate you on this path. And I may I ask you, what is your next project? What are you working on currently?
Uh, the project that I'm spending a little bit more time on right now is that, becoming exceptional, as one of the questions came up, is it's just hard to do at a later age in life. Uh,
Mm,
so I'm actually in the process of interviewing parents of exceptionals to understand how they created a setting for their children to become exceptional, because a lot of it starts at a very young age. So
right.
I'm finding some trends. I'm beginning my exploration into that. But if there is a book, it'll be around parenting of exceptionals and what parents can do to create that setting.
Oh, I would love to sign up for that. In fact, as a parent, we have two daughters, me and my wife. We keep talking about what are the ways that we can provide a nurturing environment for them. And she often repeats that a peaceful home is the best environment we can give them. So yeah, coming from a background of large families with so many children and noise and sound of various kinds, I tend to agree with her, and I think we have done a good job so far, and look forward to hearing your research findings on what else we could do as parents. Really appreciate you taking time, sir. Whenever you are in India, we would love to meet you up. And thank you so much for your time. Have a great day
Thank you
ahead.
very much for having me on, and I enjoyed our conversation, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, and wish you a happy 2024 and beyond.
Yes, likewise.